Hello everybody and welcome into another video. Today we're going to be working on and completing my custom auto smelter for my base. So the first few minutes here of the video, these are going to be resource collections and just kind of getting items together to make stuff work. And then later, as we'll see, I'm going to design and make a custom fit because I have a very small space. I will also show how to build it as well as crediting the design and kind of just telling you how it works. So strap in, grab some snacks, and I hope you enjoy. Pretty much the goal of my mining trip was to get as many resources as I can in a short time. I didn't want this part of the recording to be super long because that takes up important space that could be used for other recordings and or games. I have very small space on my computer. I only have like 20 gigabytes free at a time, so I really have to juggle these projects and getting stuff to work as it is supposed to. It's already laggy enough recording and editing. But yeah, I'm just exploring this giant cave system. I'm getting iron, gold, redstone, anything I can really get. I also get a couple of emeralds, which is pretty cool. I wish I had Silk Touch to pick them up or Fortune. Unfortunately, when I level 30 enchanted my pickaxe, I did not get Fortune. I only got Efficiency and Unbreaking. Efficiency 4 and Unbreaking 3. I mean, you can't argue with that. That's pretty good, especially on an older version like this where that's pretty important because there isn't much other methods. There is beacons in this version, but I haven't even found a nether fortress and I'm very far from getting a beacon in the first place. But that'll be another project later on, kind of focusing on nether stuff. I'm gonna do a gold farm, probably wither skeleton farm, etc, etc. But this episode I'm kind of wanting to be like a mini-sode sort of. Smaller size. This one's not even 20 minutes, so it's only really a few minutes off from my other videos, but yeah, I just feel like a smaller episode, it's a little bit easier to digest, and it's going to be labeled as 2.5, so it's optional. You don't have to watch it, but if you wanted to see the process and just wanted some more media to consume, you can do so. On top of that topic, I really want to say thank you for all the recent support. I mean, hitting 100 views on any video is insane to me because a lot of people underestimate how much 100 people is. So I really appreciate it, and I really hope these are humble beginnings. The likes, the comments, and I've gotten 8 subs in the past week. That's phenomenal. That's like above 300% of what I would normally make. So I just want to say thank you, and if you haven't yet, maybe drop a like. I appreciate reading the comments. Tell me about a funny story or a nostalgic story about one of your own worlds, or just even topics you wanted to bring up or ideas for my world or build. I'm wanting this to be a super chill gameplay. This one's a bit more high octane here. I'm just trying to experiment with different styles and see what people like the most. So this one was kind of a blend of live and post commentary. This is post commentary, but I did have my microphone active, although it ended up being terrible quality, so it didn't really serve much purpose. But I'm just trying to see what keeps people's attention more and kind of find my comfortable space with making these videos. Now, while I was smelting a lot of the iron and the stone, I was also getting books for my enchanting table, so I could get to level 30 and speed up the process. So that took a lot of off-camera grinding. I made a cow farm, and I just farmed sugarcane nonstop. This space back here, this cavity, this is where we're going to fit the super smelter, although I ended up needing to extend it because I wanted it 12 long. I feel like that'll be plenty enough for what I do, and it eats enough fuel anyways. So I really have to start from the ground up and kind of just make it work, really, if anything. Which wasn't super hard, I suppose, because super smelters themselves are pretty easy. It was just for me figuring out how the redstone worked in this version, because the builds are super chunky because there isn't much optimization like there is in modern games. So I really just kind of had to go bit by bit. You know, I didn't have everything all at once. I had to get more hoppers, and I had to make more furnaces. It was a cluster. It was a clusterfuck, but made it work in the end. And I think the final product's pretty cool. It's very unique, I would say. I wouldn't ever probably build a super smelter like how I did in this one. It was just very needlessly expensive, but you know, you gotta flex on the hose, you know. Big gains! Papa. I'm Big Papa. Anyways, I ended up not actually having powered rails, so I had to go back and craft those, and I was really struggling to figure out how to make it work as they don't connect, and that actually took me forever because I could just completely forgot how to do it. But I figured it out after like 10 minutes. Same with making droppers. It took me like 10 minutes to figure out how those are made before I gave up and looked it up because I was just too stubborn to do so. I had to wire it up really in this unique way. I wanted a lever on the side that can control them both, and because it's a weird decline, I just had to wire it up with redstone, and that ended up working just fine. That wasn't a problem at all. And it was also just about making it look nice as well because I wasn't super certain on what I wanted to go for. As you can see, I ripped out the entire wall basically and left the chest just so I could visualize stuff better and figure out what I like. I think the final design is also pretty unique as well. I have like a little viewing window so you can make sure everything's working. I think that's pretty cool. But to get my weird build going, I had to use hoppers to connect from the chest so that they could drop into the chest minecarts when they were filling back up. So it was just needlessly expensive, but it works and it's exactly what I was going for, so I'm not going to complain about it. I went with a simple, and I changed up the oak to spruce, and I just did cobble, and I liked that a lot. I was wanting to have the crafting table in the middle, but I ended up not being able to because I wanted the viewing window to be right there. And then I had to put it to the side because I needed to cover up some exposed redstone, which I think it works out pretty nicely in the end. Right here I'm labeling everything just so I can refer to it later. And then I'm going to test it as well and just make sure it works. But right here I forgot to get the minecart chest, so I have to quickly adjust that. But everything looks primed and ready. So I just kind of let them do their thing and hope and prayed. And yeah, everything was filling up just fine, which means it worked. And that was a very good feeling considering how long it took me to kind of like work it out and figure out what I wanted. But I'm very happy with the final product, I must say. And all the while, I have my chicken farm right there going off, and I have like 2-3 stacks of cooked chicken now, which is insane. Like, I haven't even had this thing super long, and I just sometimes, like, AFK waiting for stuff to smelt, and it's awesome. I put the output chest right here. I just figured that's what would look the nicest. It was kind of tricky in its spacing because I needed to fit an item elevator, but I didn't want it to be too offset, so I ended up doing what you see here, and I put a fence with some glass so I can see through. And I also make an entranceway from like one of those paintings you can go through, you know? And I did that so I could use it as like a service door or whatever. I think that was just an awesome idea because it's like so out of the way and it's so old Minecrafty. Like I'm wanting to make a flush bookshelf area by my door, and you can access that through a painting, you know? And that's like such an OG feeling because we would all do that as kids. That or make a diamond house. We would always have to have the secret entrances, and I just never let go of that. I love making secret bases. It's not super viable on things like SMPs with my friends. They're already pretty nosy into what I'm building, but I just love having little passageways like through your walls and stuff. Particularly into like redstone, I just like the little tunnels I end up making. It's just very not industrial, I guess, but it gives a sense like connecting it all together because that's how redstone works. I don't know, it's a whole thing. But right here, I'm going to pause and I'm going to go explain it. Okay, you're going to have to excuse any of the whirring that you hear because I have my 3D printer going on right now, so I apologize for any of that background sound, but I figured that it'd be important right now to talk about the item elevator design I came up with. This is actually designed by Mumbo Jumbo himself, and then I think he based it off a design of someone else's. Anyways, just saying I got my tutorial from Mumbo, the GOAT himself. So this is the first design I had. This one was a lot cheaper, but it managed to not really work out. Another thing with this system right here is that it's loss. So because I'm using it for my super smelter, if I can fit it in that space, I don't want to be losing items in the droppers with them not firing. At least with this one, it's self-powered, so all the items that you put in there are going to reach the top. And that's because it uses comparators, so the comparator powers each torch individually, and then it's triggered by the redstone dust with the torches on the side, which lead to torch burnout. Yeah, these ones did not fire, which only has me a little worried, but it very well could have been by accident. Finicky. I mean, that's just what you sign up for when you play these old versions. You're really gonna have to make chunky systems, but this is probably the design I'm gonna go for. It's gonna be probably actually not that expensive since I collected a lot of quartz when I was in the nether going for XP farm, and hopefully pretty easy. Back to you. And unpause. So I hope that explanation made sense. It's not super complicated if you really think about it, but I know a lot of people aren't redstone inclined, and that's totally fair because it is pretty complex. And in some older versions like this, you're very limited in what you can do without stuff breaking. So understandable again. I had to rebuild this like two or three times because it wouldn't stop going off, and it was just really loud doing all the clicking, as you could probably hear. I had my headphones on though, so I didn't hear it until I watched back on the recording, and yeah, it was quite annoying. That and the chickens too. But what ended up happening is my redstone torches were on the wrong side, and so just by fixing it quickly, crisis averted. I also had to just kind of like figure out what I wanted to do with the area, so I had to make all the redstone like not seeable. So I did some very interesting creative liberties with kind of putting stuff together. But again, I think it works out in the end. So with how this works, the droppers are shooting up and it gets into the chest. It should fire every time because of the comparators, but for whatever reason, it got stuck at the top one up here. But I think I solved this by... Man, I don't even know what I did, honestly. I just kind of like messed around with it until it worked. And it eventually did, so, you know, I'm not complaining. And it seems to work just fine. And if it jams up at all, like sometimes it will at the bottom if there's too many items inputted, it will, over time, eventually work its way out of the system because the comparators level's going to be changing. At least that's from what I understood from it from the tutorial and building it. Just kind of like testing on the field. So, let's see, did I'm trying to remember what I did here. Like, I was super confused as to why it's not working. Here I'm gonna test the entire system real quick. Just inputting it all. Alright, and then we can see them going. So that's a good sign. And by going in the service entrance, we can see that all of them are smelting, which is great. We just have to get the iron to hook up all the hoppers to the droppers. So at this point, I'm just kind of like, I'm using smelting stone as like a filler until I get the iron needed. But this ended up kind of being a flaw because that means I had to go through all of them and manually take out the stone because the iron couldn't smelt with it in there. So I was basically just burning fuel, and that was quite frustrating. But I figured it out in the end, and no real damage was really done, so it's not that big of a deal. I think this is Oh yeah, I recall. So I was going to go craft some more hoppers, and I found like 7 of them in my chest, and I was outraged because I had made a ton of extra hoppers. But I mean, I'm gonna definitely use them in another project. So, oh well, I got it, and you can see stuff going in here. And if I did my counts right, everything should have gone through. You know, so that was a pretty open and shut case, and I'm so glad that I got done because now I can just chuck in all this stuff and yeah, it's just going to be so much easier than a wall of furnaces. And every base has to have a super smelter, at least one that I built, because they're easy to make. And yeah, in here I am putting more flint because I wasn't super sold, so we're going to wait for the flint to shoot out. Now again, it does take a while. We have 4 there, and while I was waiting for the other 3, should be here any second now. As you can see, it does take quite a while. So I went down to check to make sure and see if it's stuck in there, but I found the 2 in there. I don't know where the other one went. And I'm not sure I did ever find out. Unless it was in one of the other droppers. I can't actually quite recall. I think I have all 7. Yeah, I do have all 7. So everything eventually does get shot out at some point if it's stuck in there. So it really is lossless. And surprisingly compact as well, considering where I fit it in between my furnaces and where my chest was going to be. So that's pretty cool. My next video, I don't know if I want to make a video on it. You have to tell me your thoughts in the comments. I was thinking of making one dedicated for finishing my bottom floor, but I figure that's something I should just do off camera. Like make my storage room and finish walls and make stuff work, I guess. But I'm not sure if that dedicates its own video because it takes a lot of time to make these videos. Upon recording and editing, the editing takes the most time. And I really want these to be as polished as I can make them, but also not have them take forever. So that's cool. But this is the end of the video. Tell me what you think about my new Minecraft skin. I had a great time actually building this. This was a lot of fun, and I'm just super pumped to have it because that'll make everything a lot easier when it comes to smelting. Until next time, this has been another wonderful video talking to you, the audience. Hello. If you want to stay around, there will be more similar content on the way with maybe some extras sprinkled in. And I hope you enjoyed. I really appreciate it if you got this far. That's like insane. I really appreciate that a lot. Getting through all this video material. That's awesome. All right. Well, this is goodbye then until the next one. See you later.